For 4 decades, Singapore criminalized casino gambling. The ban was absolute. Today, Marina Bay Sands runs 45% profit margins, outperforming nearly every casino in Las Vegas. $8 billion built a resort in a country that once outlawed its very existence, and it transformed Singapore's economy. But this extraordinary reversal didn't begin with opportunity. It began with a threat the government could no longer afford to ignore. Singapore's official stance against casino gambling was forged in law and reinforced by deep conviction. In 1966, Parliament passed the Casino Act and the Criminal Law Amendment Act, making all forms of casino-style gambling illegal. These laws were not just legal instruments, they reflected a national project. Government leaders described gambling as a threat to family stability and public order, warning that unchecked betting would erode the moral fabric of a young nation. Religious councils, especially the Islamic Religious Council of Singapore and the National Council of Churches, issued public statements and formal petitions. Their arguments drew on doctrine and on concerns about the social consequences of gambling, spiritual decay, family breakdown, and youth delinquency. In the late 1960s, police reports showed a sharp rise in pawnshop arrears and money-lending disputes in neighborhoods where illegal gambling dens operated. The Ministry of Home Affairs documented a 38% increase in gambling-related crime, citing these figures in support of the ban. Civic groups and unions added their voices, warning that Singapore's reputation as a clean, disciplined society would be at risk if gambling were allowed to flourish. Annual police operations targeted illegal gaming houses, with thousands of arrests each year. By the 1990s, even as Singapore legalized state-run lotteries and horse racing under strict regulation, private casino operations remained strictly off-limits. The consensus held firm. Social stability and national image came before any potential economic gain from gambling. Against this backdrop, any move to legalize casinos would not just be a policy change. It would be a direct challenge to decades of political, religious, and social doctrine. Tourism officials in Singapore began to notice a troubling pattern by the late 1990s. Visitor arrivals, once a steady engine of growth, had started to plateau and become stagnant. The Singapore Tourism Board's own data showed that annual arrivals hovered stubbornly around 6 to 7 million, even as neighboring destinations surged ahead. Kuala Lumpur was drawing crowds with its low-cost airlines and shopping festivals. Bangkok was booming on the back of cultural tourism. But the most dramatic challenge came from Macau, where the liberalization of casino licenses in 2002 ignited a wave of investment. In just 2 years, Macau's gross gaming revenue more than doubled, surpassing Las Vegas by 2006 and attracting millions of high-spending tourists from across Asia. For Singapore's economic planners, the numbers were a warning. The 2004 Economic Review Committee flagged the risk of losing out on foreign direct investment and high-value tourism. Without a bold new strategy, Singapore could slip further behind. Internal memos from the Ministry of Trade and Industry and the Singapore Tourism Board described a narrowing window. Regional rivals were capturing the very travelers Singapore needed to sustain its service sector and grow its GDP. The pressure was not just about tourist headcounts, it was about the future of Singapore's competitive edge. Policymakers began to consider options once thought unthinkable. The idea of an integrated resort, combining casinos with hotels, shopping, and entertainment, gained traction as a response to these external shocks. For the first time, the economic imperative to innovate was outweighing decades of moral and social resistance. Deliberations inside Singapore's Integrated Resort Committee began in 2003 with Senior Minister Goh Chok Tong presiding over a process that would test the limits of the city-state's political consensus. Internal records show a steady drumbeat of briefings, economic forecasts, and private consultations. The Ministry of Trade and Industry projected 5 to 6 billion Singapore dollars in new tourism receipts and a 10% boost in business events revenue if integrated resorts were approved. Yet the prospect of legal casinos drew sharp warnings from the Ministry of Home Affairs and religious leaders, who pressed for ironclad safeguards and a heavy entry levy on locals. Lobbyists from Las Vegas Sands and Genting, Singapore, descended on government offices, each promising billions in capital investment and landmark architecture to reshape the skyline. Sheldon Adelson's team pledged $3 billion and thousands of jobs, while Lim Kok Thai's Genting Group countered with proposals for local procurement and a revenue-sharing scheme. Behind closed doors, committee members weighed these offers against the risk of social fallout, reviewing market research that forecasted 5 billion Singapore dollars in potential gains over a decade. The decisive moment arrived on April 9, 2005. Cabinet convened on a Saturday, debating late into the afternoon. The final vote authorized 2 casino licenses under a strict regulatory model with only 2 operators, mandatory entry fees for Singapore residents, and a portion of gaming revenue earmarked for social programs. The decision unlocked a wave of investment, with developers preparing to break ground on projects that would soon redefine Singapore's image and economy. Construction began with a scale and ambition previously unseen in Singapore. The Marina Bay Sands project commanded an investment of 8 billion Singapore dollars, making it one of the world's most expensive casino developments at the time. Engineers from Arup and Parsons Brinkerhoff faced the task of raising 3 57-story towers, each supporting the 340-meter Sky Park, a cantilevered platform that would come to define the city's skyline. The Sky Park alone stretches longer than the Eiffel Tower laid on its side, and it was designed to hold nearly 4,000 people and an infinity pool suspended 200 meters above ground. To manage the immense loads and wind forces, the engineering teams used high-strength concrete and installed tuned mass dampers, techniques more often seen in skyscraper construction than in leisure resorts. Phased openings allowed Marina Bay Sands to begin operations in 2010, with the hotel and casino welcoming guests before the full resort was completed. The Art Science Museum, shaped like a lotus, and the vast convention center followed, multiplying the site's draw for international visitors and business events. Across the harbor, Resorts World Sentosa rose on a 6.6 billion Singapore dollars budget, integrating a 2,500-room resort, Universal Studios theme park, and a marine life park into a single complex. The project's engineering required deep foundation work to stabilize the reclaimed land and accommodate large-scale attractions under tight timelines. These projects were more than architectural statements. They were economic engines by design. The integrated resort model fused gaming, luxury hospitality, retail, and entertainment into a single destination. The result was a physical transformation of Singapore's waterfront, signaling a new era where architectural spectacle and business strategy worked hand in hand to create a global tourism magnet. Singapore's integrated resorts operate under one of the world's most tightly regulated casino frameworks. The Casino Regulatory Authority, established by the Casino Control Act of 2006, oversees every aspect of gaming operations, from licensing to compliance audits. Only 2 casino licenses exist, one for Marina Bay Sands and one for Resorts World Sentosa. This cap is not just symbolic, it restricts market saturation and concentrates oversight. The financial results speak for themselves. Annual gross gaming revenue for the 2 resorts regularly exceeds 3 billion Singapore dollars, with margins measured by earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization averaging 45%, figures that put Singapore on par with or ahead of many Las Vegas Strip properties and far above the global average. Unlike Macau's open-door model, Singapore's approach is defined by barriers to entry. Every Singaporean and permanent resident must pay 100 Singapore dollars as an entry levy per visit, or 2,000 Singapore dollars for an annual pass, a deterrent designed to limit local gambling while preserving the resort's appeal to international tourists. This combination of limited licenses, high entry fees, and rigorous supervision has produced a casino market that is both highly profitable and carefully contained. International arrivals climbed from 13.9 million in 2005 to 19.1 million by 2019, according to Singapore Tourism Board data. This surge was not only a result of the integrated resort's appeal, but also a reflection of Singapore's repositioning as a global leisure destination. The influx of high-spending visitors brought a measurable fiscal windfall. Ministry of Trade and Industry reports show that annual tax revenue from casino operations and related activities now approaches 1 billion Singapore dollars, a sum that supports both public finance and targeted social programs. These gains extend beyond the casino floors. The integrated resorts have driven new investments in hotels, conventions, and entertainment, creating a positive feedback loop for the broader economy. Foreign policymakers have taken notice. Japan's integrated resort bills, passed in 2016, directly reference Singapore's limited license structure and entry levy for locals. South Korea amended its Casino Act in 2020, introducing mandatory entry fees and responsible gaming measures modeled on Singapore's regulatory approach. Across policy briefings and legislative debates, Singapore's blend of strict oversight and economic payoff is cited as a blueprint for controlled liberalization. The city-states model is now studied as a template for balancing growth with social safeguards in casino regulation worldwide. Today, Singapore's integrated resorts generate over $4 billion in annual gaming revenue, outpacing Las Vegas per property, while enforcing some of the world's strictest casino regulations. As governments worldwide debate gambling's future, Singapore's gamble on control over prohibition remains the benchmark, and a question every emerging casino market must now confront: what is our take?